I was mayor of Miami-Dade and in charge of one of the largest police agencies in the United States, Miami-Dade Police Department. We did surveillance on Twitter and social media all the time to take a look at gang activity and all that, but we never try to suppress anything. And so censorship, that's the problem.
Our support for free speech and free press is well documented. Twitter, as you know, is a private company, and they will make their own decision on content moderation. But our support, again, for free press and free speech has been well documented.
Let's bring in our panel. Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz, Molly Hemingway, the editor-in-chief at The Federalist, and The Five co-host Jessica Tarlov. You know, Howie, I want to get into just the bar that needed to be cleared here for some of the discussion, some of the tweets that they were talking about. I mean, there's disinformation, people saying that COVID makes you magnetic and sticking spoons to your head. Right. And then there's some real innocuous stuff. I mean, from what you've gone through, what's in here?
Well, looking at these documents, it does seem that the Trump administration was focused on an issue, the issue being misinformation, as it saw it, about runs on grocery stores, which was a little bit odd because there were runs on grocery stores at the beginning of the pandemic. But secondly, when the Biden administration came in, it was focused on people, and that's much more upsetting. Anti-vaxxer accounts, as they called them, particularly Alex Berenson, former New York Times reporter who's controversial in this field. And listen to this. The Biden team was very angry and wanted to deplatform several accounts and wanted to know why Berenson was still there. But finally, here's the takeaway. Martin Kulldorff, an epidemiologist at Harvard Medical School, he tweeted in his expert opinion that vaccines were important for older patients, but not needed for children or those who had natural immunity. For that, he was slapped with a misleading label. He was shadow banned. You couldn't share or like anything he had to say for his opinion. And it's like the Hunter Biden laptop all over again, except with life or death consequences.
Molly, where do you even begin to draw the line if you are a government agency looking into all this, let alone several government law enforcement agencies?
Right. We know that there were multiple agencies that were using Twitter, and we also can reasonably surmise they were working with other social media companies and other big tech companies to suppress people's freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right of people to just get together and have a debate about things. This is extremely nefarious that the government was involved. There are multiple bad actors here. That the government was in any way involved with trying to censor anybody really is a problem. And it's not even about whether what people were saying was true or not. Like what we've learned in these Twitter files, frequently people were censored for saying absolutely true things. But there's an even deeper thing that's more important, which is in America, we believe that you have the right to express your opinion, that you can debate with people when you disagree with them. We should not make our first instinct be to shut people down, but rather to tolerate differences of opinion, tolerate different interpretations of fact, have people be able to be free to debate those things. We've just turned into a very dark corner where people think that if you disagree with someone or if you disagree with the government, that therefore that there's some right to be shut down, and that's just wrong. So any government involvement was wrong, but also Twitter was wrong, even if they hadn't been bullied by the government. Scientific debate is just that. There's no such thing as settled science. People should have been free to debate the efficacy of vaccines or the benefits and the problems associated with them. It's very dangerous that they weren't.
Yeah, Jessica, what about that? There really is no sense of actual scientific conclusion that you're going to reach on Twitter in 140, 280 characters or whatever it is. Should this be suppressed?
Well, I think it really depends on what it is, and we also have to Molly's point about science not being settled, look at this as a project in motion, right? There's a timeline here, and we've seen actually that the Trump administration was very active in working with the social media companies to make sure that bad information wasn't getting out there. And then when the Biden administration came in, they were doing that as well. So this is a bipartisan reaction to a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that no one had any good answers to. And I think that you're seeing the fact that content moderation is difficult. I personally found this to be the most interesting batch of Twitter files, or whatever we're calling them. But I wish that they had focused more on the doctors, as Howie pointed out, the people who knew what they were talking about, who were being censored, versus someone like Alex Berenson. So it's already been said that he was controversial. He's not just controversial, he was dead wrong about a lot of things that are really important. He said, for instance, that 1 in every 500 kids under 5 who gets the vaccine was hospitalized with a vaccine-related injury. That's not true. The German researchers in other countries have debunked that. He went after the idea of getting a third vaccine. The Israeli health ministry went after him after that. And let's not forget the fact that in 2020, he was one of the wrongest people out there when it came to COVID. He said that it had peaked in April. He said 40,000 will die. Then we're reaching herd immunity by June. Wrong, 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 wrong. So focus on the doctors, like the Stanford professor as well, who didn't get to tweet about what they were finding, especially when it relates to kids. But don't make Alex Berenson into some sort of martyr.
Yeah, Howie, really quickly here, what do you do with that? And shouldn't there be an ability for a social media company, which is a private company, to say outright lies in a pandemic? No way.
Right, but then the conventional wisdom changes, and it turns out that some of these things were from published studies, and the idea that kids would not be hurt by extended lockdowns. We have a very different view of that today than we did 3 years ago, and so I'm just more troubled by the fact that the president's administration was naming people, trying to get them kicked off. That seems very personal to me, and as a journalist, a little bit chilling.
Guys, thanks so much. Despite bitterly cold temperatures, it was a very busy holiday weekend on our southern border, with more than 16,000 total migrant encounters, and agents expelled just a small percentage of those under the temporarily extended Title 42 policy. Correspondent Jeff Paul takes a closer look at the state of the border crisis tonight.
It's a journey thousands continue to make despite temperatures at times hovering around the freezing mark in Eagle Pass, Texas. These migrants are just the latest to show up along the southern border in an exceedingly long line of people hoping to cross into the U.S.
I'm from Peru and I'm happy to be here. Even if it's cold, I'm happy.
Even with the frigid temperatures this holiday weekend, the flow of people to the border isn't slowing down. From Friday to Sunday, CBP sources tell Fox News there were more than 16,000 encounters. 14,000 were released, but roughly 2,100 were expelled under Title 42.
We turned ourselves into immigration authorities. Immigration expelled us because what they told us is that everything from Central America is blocked, closed off. We're waiting for Title 42 to be nullified.
While Title 42 was set to expire last week, the Supreme Court announced a hold until it hears the case. That means the policy remains in place for now. That's left thousands of migrants confused and Border Patrol agents frustrated.
Title 42 is going to have to go away at some point, whether it's tomorrow or it's 6 months from now. It doesn't really matter. The problem is that we don't have a replacement.
And beyond the anticipated increase in crossings if and when Title 42 ends, law enforcement has its fears.
Now that we're going to see more human smuggling, we're going to see more gotaways, more drugs coming into our country because of the fact that Border Patrol will be essentially pulled off the line.
Now, as we wait on the fate of Title 42, even with it in place, November saw a record-breaking 233,740 encounters. That's up more than 30% from just 1 year ago. Rich?
Jeff Paul. Jeff, thank you.